When Kobe Bryant asked his foundation team to find a woman named Destiny Wheeler, he did not know if she was still alive. He did not know if she was in Los Angeles or somewhere else entirely. He did not know if she would want to be found, and he did not know what he would say to her. If she was, the question was not whether he owed her something. He did. The question was whether 30 years was too long a time for a debt like that to still mean anything, and whether the woman who had pressed a worn leather basketball into the hands of a 9-year-old boy in a parking lot in Philadelphia and said, "Here, you look like you need this more than I do," had any idea what that moment had set in motion. Nobody. Not the private investigator, not Kobe's foundation director, and certainly not Destiny herself, could have prepared for what happened when they finally found her living in a shelter in Inglewood, California, 40 years after the afternoon that had quietly changed everything. Kobe had been cleaning out a storage unit in Brentwood in February. It was the kind of task he had been putting off for years. Boxes from different periods of his life, stacked without system. Early memorabilia from his rookie years. Training equipment that no longer fit his body. Paperwork from defunct business ventures. And in the back corner of the unit, beneath a collapsed folding table, a cardboard box sealed with tape that had dried and cracked at the edges. And across the top of the box in black marker, in handwriting he recognized as his own. From perhaps 20 years ago, the words, "Do not throw away." He sat on an overturned equipment case and opened it. Inside was the kind of inventory that only makes sense to the person who assembled it. A report card from 4th grade. A photograph of his parents at a restaurant somewhere in Italy, a program from a high school game, his first professional contract folded into quarters, and at the bottom of the box wrapped in a piece of cloth that had once been a practice jersey, a basketball. It was old, the leather worn smooth in patches, the seams raised and darkened, the black lines between the panels faded to gray. He held it in both hands and felt the specific weight of it, and something moved in his chest. The way things move when the body remembers something, before the mind catches up. He had not thought about this ball in years. He had not thought about Destiny Wheeler in years. She had been 19 years old, and he had been 9. And it was a Saturday afternoon in a parking lot outside a community center in West Philadelphia, and he had been sitting on the curb watching older kids play on the outdoor court because he was not yet old enough or big enough to get into the game. And he had been doing what he always did, which was watch everything and memorize it and file it away for later. When a girl with braids and a denim jacket had appeared beside him and said, "What are you looking at?" and he had said the game, and she had said, "Do you play?" and he had said, "Not yet," and she had been quiet for a moment, looking at him, and then she had gone to her car and come back with a basketball. She had been carrying in her trunk, and she had put it in his hands and said, "Here. You look like you need this more than I do," and she had walked into the community center, and he had sat there on the curb with the ball in his lap and looked at it for a long time. He had never learned her name until she had called after him from the doorway of the community center and said, "My name is Destiny," and he had said, "Mine is Kobe," and she had nodded and gone inside. And he had not seen her again. He sat in the storage unit holding the ball and thought about the line between the things that happen to you and the things that make you and how thin that line sometimes is, and how rarely you get to go back and stand at the exact point where it was crossed. He called his foundation director that evening. "I need you to find someone." He said, "Her name is Destiny Wheeler. She was 19 in 1988. She was in West Philadelphia. At some point, she had a car, a dark-colored car. I don't know what else." His director was quiet for a moment. "That is not a lot," he said. "I know." Kobe said find her anyway. It took 6 weeks. The investigator his director hired was thorough and patient, and followed the trail through Philadelphia, through 2 addresses in Atlanta, through a period that left no records at all, through a name change and back, and through a series of moves that traced the particular geography of a life that had not been easy and that had required constant motion to stay ahead of circumstances that kept arriving faster than they could be managed. The investigator called on a Thursday morning. "I found her," he said. Kobe was in his car outside a gym. "Where is she?" "Inglewood," he said. "She has been there about 8 months. She is at the Harbor Light Shelter on South Figueroa." Kobe sat with the phone in his hand for a moment. "Does she know anyone is looking?" "No," the investigator said. "She does not know anything." Kobe thanked him and drove to Inglewood that afternoon. The shelter was a brick building set back from the street with a chain-link fence around a small concrete yard where 3 women were sitting in plastic chairs in the February afternoon sun. Kobe parked down the block and sat for a moment in the car. The basketball was on the passenger seat. He had brought it without entirely deciding to. He had simply picked it up when he left the house and put it in the car. He walked to the entrance and spoke to the woman at the front desk and said he was looking for a resident named Destiny Wheeler. And the woman looked at him with the particular expression of shelter staff who have learned to assess the intentions of people asking for residents before they answer. And Kobe said, "I knew her a long time ago in Philadelphia. She does not know. I am here. Please tell her there is someone from home who would like to speak with her, if she is willing." The woman at the desk studied him for another moment and then picked up a phone. He waited in a small room off the main entrance with plastic chairs and a window that faced the yard. He could see the 3 women in the chairs outside. One of them was laughing at something the other had said, and the sound of it came through the glass, faintly like something from a different world. The door opened. The woman who walked in was 60 years old, with close-cropped gray hair and a face that had the particular quality of faces that have carried a lot, without losing their essential expression. She was wearing a dark green sweater and dark jeans, and she stopped in the doorway when she saw Kobe, and her face went through several things in rapid succession before it settled into something that was not quite belief. She said his name the way people say a name when they are checking whether what they are seeing is real. "It is me," Kobe said. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at the basketball in his hands. "Is that the ball?" she said. "It is." Kobe said. She put one hand over her mouth and stood in the doorway, and Kobe watched her and did not rush her because this moment belonged to her, and he was going to let her have all of it. She sat down in one of the plastic chairs, and he sat across from her and set the ball on the floor between them. And she looked at it, and then at him, and then back at the ball. "I thought about you," she said. "After a while, I looked for you when you went to the NBA. I watched some games." Kobe nodded. I thought about you a lot, he said, especially lately. She shook her head slowly. I was just a girl doing something nice, she said. I did not know who you were going to be. Nobody knew. He said, That is not why I am here. She looked at him. Why are you here? She asked, and there was something careful in the question. The carefulness of someone who has learned not to assume that arriving things are good things. Because you gave me something. He said that I do not know how to put a number on, and I have been carrying this ball around for 30 years without doing anything about it. And I would like to do something about it now. If you will, let me. She was quiet. What do you mean by something? She said. He told her what he meant. He told her about the foundation and the housing program, and the partnership with a property management company in the Inglewood area that had units available, and the support services that came with them, job placement and healthcare access, and the transitional assistance that was designed specifically for people rebuilding, after exactly the kind of circumstances that left no records for 6 weeks and required a patient investigator to trace. Destiny listened without interrupting, and when he finished, she looked at the ball on the floor again. She said, I do not need charity, he said. I know that he said, this is not charity. This is a 30-year-old debt being paid by the person who owes it. She looked at him. You do not owe me anything, she said. I gave you a ball. You gave me a beginning, he said. There is a difference. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, My daughter is in Hawthorne. She said I have not been close with her the last few years. Things got difficult, but she has 2 kids, my grandchildren, and I have not seen them in 8 months. Kobe looked at her. Would she want to see you? He asked. I think so, Destiny said slowly. I think so. I needed to be somewhere stable first before I went back to her, and I have not been able to get stable. He nodded. Let us start there, he said. Let us get you stable within 2 weeks. Destiny Wheeler moved into a 1-bedroom apartment on West Manchester Avenue 3 miles from her daughter's house in Hawthorne. The apartment was clean and quiet, with a window that faced a small courtyard with 2 trees in it, and the foundation support coordinator met with her 3 times in the first week to help her navigate the services available to her. And on the 3rd Saturday after she moved in, her daughter Keisha brought the grandchildren over, and Destiny opened the door, and her grandson, who was 6, ran to her without hesitation, in the way children run to people they love when they have been kept from them too long. And Destiny crouched down and caught him, and held him, and stood in the doorway of her new apartment with her eyes closed and her grandson's arms around her neck. Kobe heard about it from his foundation director, who had heard it from the support coordinator. He was in a meeting when the message came through, and he stepped out to read it and stood in the corridor for a moment, reading it twice, and then he went back into the meeting and did not say anything about it, because some things you receive quietly in a corridor and carry with you for the rest of the day. Without explaining to anyone, he drove to Inglewood that evening, not to the apartment, just to the neighborhood, and sat in his car on a street he did not know, with the window down listening to the ordinary sounds of an ordinary evening, and he thought about a 9-year-old boy sitting on a curb in Philadelphia, wanting something so badly he could feel it in his hands before he had anything to hold, and about a 19-year-old girl who looked at the boy and saw the wanting, and gave him something to hold on to. He thought about how that moment had required nothing of her, except the willingness to look at someone and see them correctly, and how that willingness had cost her exactly nothing, and produced something she could not have known the dimensions of, and would not have believed if someone had told her the basketball was on the passenger seat. He had not brought it back to storage. He did not think he was going to. 6 weeks after Destiny moved in, she started a part-time position at a community health clinic on Crenshaw that the foundation had helped connect her to. It was reception work 3 days a week, and she was good at it. The clinic director told the foundation coordinator, after the first month that Destiny had a way with people who were waiting, which was most of what working a reception desk in a clinic was about, a way of making the waiting feel less like waiting and more like being in a place that knew you were there. Kobe visited once on a Tuesday afternoon. Unannounced, he sat in the waiting room for 20 minutes watching Destiny at the desk before she looked up and saw him. And her expression did the thing it had done in the shelter. The rapid movement through several things before settling into something steady. "You did not have to come," she said. "I know. He said I was in the neighborhood." She looked at him. "You are never just in the neighborhood," she said. He smiled. Her grandson, Marcus, started coming to the foundation basketball program on Saturday mornings. He was 6 and serious about it. In the way that 6-year-olds are serious about things they have decided are important, which is completely and without reservation. The program coordinator told Kobe that the boy had his grandmother's way of paying attention, that he watched everything and filed it away, and that when he did something right and someone told him so, he nodded the way someone nods when they already knew and were waiting for the confirmation. Kobe heard that and did not say anything for a moment. Then he said, "I know someone else who was like that," once the coordinator asked who. He just smiled and said, "Someone who gave me a very important thing when I was young and did not ask for anything back and did not know what it would become." The ball stayed in the car for another 3 months before Kobe finally brought it inside. He put it on a shelf in his office between a photograph from his first championship and a handwritten note from his daughter. And he looked at it sometimes when he was sitting at his desk and thinking about nothing in particular. And on those days, it reminded him of the same thing it had always reminded him of, which was that greatness rarely starts with greatness. It starts with someone looking at you when you are still nothing, and deciding you are worth the cost of a small gesture, and that the distance between that moment and everything that comes after it is not something you measure in miles or years, but in the accumulated weight of every morning. You got up and honored what someone saw in you before you could see it in yourself. If this story stayed with you, drop your city and country in the comments below. And if you believe that one small act of kindness can echo for a lifetime, please hit that like button and subscribe. Click the video on your screen right now for another story that will stay with you. Keisha called the foundation office 2 months after her mother moved in, not to report a problem, but to say thank you. And the coordinator who took the call told Kobe about it. Later that afternoon, she said Keisha had been crying. Not sad crying, she said, but the other kind. The kind that happens when something you had given up on comes back. And Kobe listened and thanked the coordinator and sat for a while after she left his office, thinking about Keisha growing up without the version of her mother that existed before the hard years, and about how children carry the weight of their parents' struggles in ways that never show up in any record anywhere, and about how the return of a parent who has found their footing again is one of the things that cannot be given a dollar value, no matter how many numbers you put around it. Marcus, the grandson, had a game in April, and Destiny came with Keisha, and they sat in the bleachers of the foundation gym together for the first time in years, side by side on the wooden seats, and watched a 6-year-old boy move across a polished floor with the specific confidence of a child who has been told he is capable and has decided to believe it. The program coordinator watched Destiny watching her grandson and saw something in her face that he described to Kobe later as the look of a person who has just understood that the story is not over. That there are chapters still to come that she had not known how to imagine when she was sitting in a shelter in February with nothing connecting her to what she had been or what she might still become after the game. Marcus ran to his grandmother first before his mother, before the coaches, before anyone, and Destiny caught him the same way she had caught him at the apartment door, with her eyes closing and her arms going around him completely, and the gym was loud with the noise of other families and other children, and nobody was watching them, except the program coordinator who was watching, because it was his job to notice things, and who wrote in his notes that evening. Simply grandmother and grandson courtside. Good day. Kobe read those notes on a Friday morning with his coffee, and when he got to the last line, he put the folder down and looked out the window at the parking lot below, and thought about a storage unit in Brentwood, and a cardboard box with the words, "Do not throw away" on the top, and a ball wrapped in a cloth that had once been a practice jersey, and the particular mercy of objects that wait for you to be ready to understand what they mean. He had cleaned out the rest of that storage unit, and he thought that was not too bad for a worn leather ball with faded seams that a girl had taken out of her trunk one Saturday afternoon and handed to a boy on a curb because he looked like he needed it more than she did. If this story stayed with you, drop your city and country in the comments below. And if you believe that one small act of kindness can echo for a lifetime, please hit that like button and subscribe. Click the video on your screen right now for another story that will stay with you.